Welcome to our posts. Today we will see stories of our petty revenge. I purposely farted in front of guy at the gym because he wouldn't take no for an answer. So a few things. I go to the gym to work out and decompress. I don't see it as a place to be social. I wear large over-ear headphones. I was at the gym and just finished one my sets for deadlifts when a guy walks over. This is something I'm used to, despite how much I dislike it, but he starts talking to me and I'm able to pick up he's flirting. I'm polite and waiting for the proper moment to end the conversation. When he asks for my number, I decline. He keeps talking and going into the usual shtick of why not? And come on. At that point I'm very uncomfortable and also annoyed because my workout timer has already gone off and it passed time for me to start my next set. I put on my big girl pants and tell him he's making me uncomfortable and I just want to finish my workout. Does he leave? No. He keeps talking now, going on about how he didn't mean it like that and he's not a bad guy. No actual apology to be found. Now during this entire interaction I've had to fart. I was being polite and holding it in until he left, but seeing as he's not, I think, well, I know a way to get him to leave. As he's still talking, I let it go. It's silent but rather smelly. It only takes about 2 seconds for him to catch a whiff. He stops talking and the face he makes is too much that I have to bite my lip to stop laughing. That's when he gives me a look of, "Are you serious?" and then finally leaves. And I'm left alone to finish my workout. Next story. I disgusted my food-thieving roommate. My roommate was stealing my food and not only not admitting, but apparently bragging about it to my other roommates and calling me a pushover. I didn't want to participate in whatever they thought they were doing, especially since I am moving away in 2 months. But I do want my food. Today, they were sitting in the kitchen, chatting. I came in, took my meatballs from the fridge and licked them one by one while maintaining the eye contact with the thief. Then I licked several other items, spit into my milk. It's a waste of milk, but luckily there wasn't a lot, etc. She looked utterly disgusted. Eventually she asked, "Are you mental?" I calmly replied, "I always do this, didn't you know?" and left. I don't know if she will stop, but her face of mixed disgust and horror makes it worth it. Next story. I left a dirt stain on man's white Nikes because he wouldn't move his feet on a flight. I was flying home from a work trip on American Airlines. Now on this flight a man sat next to me. He wasn't super tall, about average in height. He needed to go to the bathroom, so I got up, let him out and got up again to let him in. As I sat back down, my leg hit his. I looked down to see his leg about halfway into my aisle, leaving me with about 1/3 of the space I had. I'm thinking he's going to move, and he's got plenty of space because he doesn't have a bag under his seat, but he keeps it there. I'm sitting side saddle in my seat at this point. I look at him, then at his leg, then back at him. He blatantly stares at me, then pulls out his phone and just starts playing on it. So what I do is lift my foot and place it over his foot, setting the dirty sole of my Converses on what looks like new white Nikes, fabric ones too, not leather. He immediately whips his head up at me and I, following his example, pulled out my tablet and started reading. He pulls his foot away and had a nasty attitude the whole plane ride. But I got my space back. Next story. School denies me my prescription. I told them I wanted to call a parent. Little did they know. I was abused by my dad's wife growing up. My mom fought long and hard to gain custody, but my dad was a good Christian with more money and he didn't fraternize with black people. Given our location, my mom stood no chance. She finally got custody when I was old enough to where my opinion mattered. I switched from a fancy, extremely competitive, snobby private school to the local public school by choice. I dyed my hair green and put a gay pride sticker on my car. Based on where I was coming from alone, I was a C student at fancy school, so it was not my grades. I was placed in all the honors and AP classes the school offered. Teachers didn't know what to think of me. I had green hair. This was considered absolutely shocking at the time, and my friends and I were bullied for many things, including this. My bumper sticker was definitely the most controversial topic in the entire school. But I was quiet. I came from fancy school, I paid attention in class, I was earning straight A's. Thankfully, although most of my peers shunned me, my teachers realized pretty quickly that I was a decent enough kid. I had a problem where I got migraines. Finally got a prescription for them, non-narcotic, and took it straight to the nurse's office because the district had a zero-tolerance policy and being in possession of even Tylenol would get you expelled for drug possession. Nurse, you're going to have to get the doctor's signature on this form. Me, why? It's a legitimate prescription with my name on it in the original bottle. Nurse, condescendingly, we're required to have a doctor's signature before we can dispense medications. Me, giving 0F, how do you think I got the prescription in the first place? Nurse decided to impress upon me the fact that I was powerless here, and that there was absolutely nothing I could do except comply. I left the office stressed because I didn't have access to my migraine medicine, and of course ended up stressing myself out into developing a migraine. Call me a Karen, but I felt entitled to go to the nurse's office and be dispensed my medication, and so I politely requested it be given to me. The nurse obviously told me no, so I asked for the principal. Got the assistant principal, AP, who simply reiterated district policy. Then it occurred to me that it was within my power to get my medicine. Because I had a secret weapon. So I had to be sneaky. Me, I'd like to call one of my parents. This phone call wasn't intended for my dad, a financial consultant. It wasn't to my mom, who worked in sales and advertising. Of course I wasn't calling Stepmonster. But my stepdad, on the other hand, just happened to be our region's most famous radio talk show host at the time. And he was on the air for another 2 hours. The AP brought me the phone book, those existed back then, and I looked up the radio station's number in the yellow pages without the AP figuring out which business I was calling. Called the radio station and got the front desk. Of course lots of people called him, ask for him, and get absolutely nowhere. But I knew they would interrupt his show and he'd take the call if I told them I was his daughter royal. In all my life, I had never had a situation that warranted me calling him at work. I was hoping he'd take the call while on air, but he didn't want to air what was likely private business, so he put commercials on while I explained the situation. Then I suppressed a crap-eating grin while handing the phone to the AP to talk to my stepdad, Bill. I managed a poker face. The AP didn't realize he was talking to Bill Jones when he dismissed my concerns, and even suggested I should be denied my medications simply due to my pants, which I'd been wearing half the year without problem, but apparently were a uniform violation that day. AP basically explained that's just how it is and tough luck and did not realize the crap he'd just stepped into. He hung up, dismissed me, and walked off looking pretty self-satisfied at winning his little power trip. I went to class feeling victorious. I hadn't won yet, but I'd played my cards and knew how it would turn out. Stepdad got back on air and immediately changed the topic of discussion to the ridiculousness of the district's medication policy. The phone lines lit up. Turns out lots of people wanted to air their complaints. I was sitting in class, migraine kicking in. But I was feeling satisfied that their lack of respect for me, and all other more powerless students, was hitting the fan. I timed it. 45 minutes after I was arrogantly denied my legally prescribed medication that I needed, the AP came into the classroom I was in, knelt down beside my desk, and whispered, "Hey. You want to come take your medication?" Fallout, even more fun, because the school wanted desperately to expel me. But while I 100% can be a troublemaker when I want to be, evidence, this post, I never did anything for which I could have defensibly been disciplined. They had nothing on me. I knew it. They knew I knew it. And they knew they couldn't get away with making crap up because Bill Jones. All my friends were seniors, and the school admins didn't realize until the last day of school that I was a junior. I could see the panic in AP's eyes. "AP, you can take one summer course in English and you'll be able to graduate early." Me, absolutely not. I haven't submitted any college applications and most of the competitive schools I'll be applying to require more than the basic minimum to graduate. I'll be here for another year. AP, would you like to take your high school classes at the community college instead? You'll get high school and college credit. This was a barely heard of program at the time, but they wanted to get rid of me so badly, I got to rack up a year's worth of college general education credits during my senior year. They tried to F me over, so I F'd back, and since they couldn't punish me, they rewarded me just to get me to go away. Next story. My mom kicked me out? Have fun throwing out your pillow. So I, 18 female, and my mother, 50 female, kicked me out today because I wouldn't let her financially take advantage of me. She told me to get out and take nothing with me. Then she left. I'm really fortunate that one of my friends lives in the same building as me, so we were able to take everything I owned in about 3 hours. I've been seeing this coming for a while, so most of my things were already packed away. Now, a little context for my friend. She, bless her heart, has the worst body odor I've ever smelled. It's bad. Like never completely come out of fabric bad. And for the past 3 hours we have been running up and down 2 flights of stairs carrying heavy boxes. So, as we sit on the couch, resting and taking the place in before we never return, I allow myself one petty thought. I grab my mother's pillow and I hand it to my friend. She understands the assignment. That pillow goes under her armpits, her back, her chest, anywhere it can soak up 3 hours worth of sweat. That pillow sees hell. We put the pillow back in its place and leave. Now, I don't know if she actually meant for me to leave or not. But when she gets home and sees my room empty, I hope she regrets chasing away the last person who cared for her. And when she gets in bed and lays her head down on her pillow, I hope she cries. Next story. Use my email as your spam dump? Prepare to be carpet bombed. One day, many years ago, I got an email addressed to someone who had the same first initial and last name as I do. For the purpose of this story, I'll call him G-Man. As with anyone who uses a common email address, think first initial plus last name, you sometimes get an email that isn't meant for you. It was mostly incidental things like receipts and the occasional personal email. I was chalking them up to being a data entry error. Perhaps they misheard the email address and instead of typing in gc, last name, at gmail.com, they typed in g, last name, at gmail.com. No big deal. In the cases where I could, I'd politely reply to the sender and let them know that I wasn't the intended recipient and to please let G-Man know that he's giving out the wrong email address going forward. It was never successful. I'd still get emails for G-Man, and it was for things that I'd think you'd want to receive, like order receipts or something that had a confirmation number attached to it. I tried to track down G-Man, but to no avail. There were multiple G-Man, last name, on social media, so I could never 100% confirm which one it might have been. And so this went on and on for years. Until finally one day, I got a personal email address to G-Man that referenced the company he worked for. Aha! Now I had something. I looked him up. It turns out that G-Man is the systems manager at said company. His LinkedIn bio says that he's an IT professional. That's interesting. I find his company email and forward him the email, also advising him that the other address he's using is attached to another person and it would be great if he could be more mindful of what he's typing in or giving out. Again, I was polite in my request to him. He replied and apologized. I thought, it's finally over. But it wasn't over. Oh no, far from it. The emails I received that were addressed to G-Man actually began to increase in volume. Now I'm getting emails for mailing lists and account signups and all sorts of other crap. This guy, this so-called IT professional, is clearly using my email address as his spam dump, knowing that it went to an actual person. I would have to sort through dozens upon dozens of emails daily as a result of this, and as we all know, once you're on one mailing list, you tend to end on a lot more mailing lists. By now, I've decided that clearly this clown is deliberately being stupid, so it's gloves off and game on. I decide to extract revenge at any opportunity. It started out simple enough. If I got an account sign up, I'd click the link to verify it and then promptly log in and deactivate the account. It worked for a bit, but then there would be another sign up, so I got more creative. I'd log into the account, change all the information and, most importantly, the password, usually to something like I am a gigantic butthole, which would leave the account active, but totally inaccessible since any attempt at password recovery sent the email to my account, which was then promptly ignored and deleted. Hotel booking? I'd log on and cancel it the day before he was due to arrive. I'm guessing he never got noticed though, since it was all coming to my email. Basically anything I could do that would inconvenience G-Man, I'd do it. This back and forth continued on for years. In fact, I still occasionally get emails for the guy. Then one day, it happened. I got an email receipt for an order that G-Man had placed. It had the recipient's name and address, but more importantly, IT had G-Man's address on it. Cue up, I've got a golden ticket. I finally had the means of the ultimate revenge. I took his address and I signed him up for everything I could find. Free samples, i.e., adult diapers, feminine products and lube, catalogs, normal, not so normal and raunchy. I spent an entire day finding anything I could enter his address into and dutifully filled it out. But the coup de grace, the cherry on top. When I was finding things to sign up for, I stumbled onto a website that allowed you to order free flooring samples. They'd be various sizes, but some were 12-inch by 12-inch squares. Carpet, tile, wood, linoleum, whatever. I signed G-Man up for every sample I could. Then I found another site offering the same thing and I did it again, and again, and again, until the point where I literally lost track of how many free flooring samples I signed him up for. My guess, it was easily in the hundreds, if not thousands. I literally carpet bombed G-Man. Coincidentally, the email volume certainly decreased. I never heard from G-Man either. Maybe he deleted my initial email and forgot, or maybe he was buried under all those flooring samples. Either I'm sure once they started to arrive, he realized his mistake. I bet that to this day he still gets items delivered to that address. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel or posts.